Hi, Matt Bisogno here again, and welcome to the second episode of Gold Nuggets. I've chosen a slightly unfortunate time of year to do this, in that the racing is currently, well, pretty lamentable, it should be said. So trying to find interesting horses or angles are slim pickings currently. Nevertheless, as I said last week, every race has a winner, and it's our job to try to find them. Some are easier to isolate than others, and some of them pay better than others. So what have we got? We've got 4 race meetings tomorrow: Catterick, Bangor, Newcastle and Chelmsford. 2 over jumps, 2 on the all-weather, and as I mentioned last week, do check the course info, and do also search in the search box for anything related to those tracks. In actual fact, if you go to the course info on the right hand side, you'll often find some interesting information, like for instance this Catterick draw and pace is probably going to be for flat racing at Catterick, but nevertheless, if you were looking on in the summer, let's say, then that would be an interesting place to go. So do always check out these course guides. It's always good to be aware of the course constitution as well. Again, this is the flat layout, but the jumps track follows the same circular or vaguely circular route. So do be aware of that kind of information and anything that might be penned in this space. When I was looking to try to find a bet tomorrow, I struggled. There were a few things that I wanted to tease out though, and allow me to do that now. So the first one that last week I mentioned checking the weather forecast before getting stuck in. Now I happen to know the weather tomorrow is forecast dry everywhere. One other thing that you can and should do is to check the going descriptions at the race meetings. And if you go to the let me just change this window size so I can show you this. If you go to britishhorseracing.com/racing/fixtures/upcoming, or just go to the BHA site and you can find it from there, you will get some useful information on the race card page. So if I go to the Catterick card here, what I'm interested in is the going and the detail supporting it. So on this page I can see that the going is soft, good to soft in places. The weather forecast for Wednesday and Thursday: sunny spells with high of 8 degrees, no frost forecast and no rain forecast. We can see that there are some small race distance amendments, and they're worth being aware of as well. That's information you can find on the GG's Twitter feed every morning. So if you're on Twitter, or even if you're not, you don't actually have to post anything. You can just be on Twitter and follow interesting Twitter accounts. You should follow GG's_UK, and you can get this information on your feed every morning. So that's worth knowing. Right. Now, soft, good to soft in places, or the other meeting that is happening tomorrow. Let's just quickly, because they've got the same thing that we need to be aware of. So the other meeting tomorrow is at Bangor on Dee, and their going is BHA site, a little bit slow here. In fact, excruciatingly slow. They have heavy on the chase course, soft, heavy in places on the hurdle course. They've got the same situation with dry overnight, Wednesday and Thursday, dry forecast with sunny spells. Now what this means is that the ground is drying out, and when the ground is drying out, it can be quite sticky, tacky, holding ground. By holding I mean when the horse's hooves go in, they kind of stick like suction cups a little bit, and obviously that takes more energy from the horses to get their hooves back out of the ground. It's actually quite hard usually to make up a lot of ground from the back of the field. So that's I tend to favour prominent racers when the going is has been on the wet side and is now drying out. I have banged on for as long as they'll listen to me, and longer, to people at the BHA and other powers that be about my contention that we should have a separate going description for holding for this kind of drying out ground, because it's definitely the case that lots of horses don't handle it and some do. So you'll get horses that have got good heavy ground form but can't handle this kind of holding ground. Horses that have got good soft ground form but can't handle this holding ground. Horses that have got good to soft form but cannot handle sticky, tacky holding ground. At the moment, we have no way of knowing that from the official data feeds, and I contend that we should have. Whether or not we should have, we won't have it for tomorrow, so we just need to keep that in mind. Like I say, from my own personal perspective, I tend to look to horses towards the front of the pack, all other things being equal, which typically they're not. So Catterick's card tomorrow, there wasn't really much to stoke my fires. There is the North Yorkshire Grand National Handicap Chase. This is a staying handicap chase with a couple of horses rated in the mid 130s, so it's not a bad race by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to take some getting. The race, the market is framed around a single horse, Sidi Ismail, who's been on a great run. He's won 4 of his last 5 races, and at staying trips. So on the 4th of December he won over 3 miles at Wetherby. On Boxing Day he won over 3.5 at Market Raisin. It's been nudged up plenty for winning those 2, so kept on well at Wetherby, deserved his £9 rise there. Then at Market Raisin, Flash Tail on the run in, all out. Sounds like that might have been quite a hard race. He's carrying the big weights here, 11, 12, 11, 11, 11, 12. That was off 127. He's gone up another £8 for that, so 135. So he's actually, £17 higher than 2 runs back. That's quite a chunk. He might not stop him, but this is a competitive race again. So the Lincolnshire National was a 0 to 130. This is a 0 to 140, which brings in Almazar Guard, who wouldn't have been eligible for that other race. The other runners further down the handicap, you can see there's a kind of a stone differential between the top 2 and the rest. They are getting a chunk of weight, which on this sort of ground over this sort of trip may be material. Now, in terms of run style, the pace for the race, we don't have much historical data to go on here. So if you remember, Catterick was, where are we? Thursday. Catterick, good to soft in places. So let's just change this slightly to make it good to soft. Actually doesn't make any difference. They race over this marathon trip very infrequently. And this field size combination with the marathon trip in handicaps means there's only actually 2 races in the sample, so I don't want to get too hung up on this. In fact, probably not at all. Just the fact that the Catterick does tend to it's quite a sharp track, does tend to favour those nearer to the front. Again, that sticky ground would lead me personally to be looking for a horse towards the front of the field, and based on recent run styles we can see that Classic Escape disputed the lead last time, led the time before and then was kind of midfield the other 2. Almazar Guard led 2 starts back and 4 starts back, and was close up, actually led led at the second 3 starts back. So last time out was midfield and ran not a great race. So I imagine that Luca Morgan, who actually is in fine form himself lately, probably push Almazar Guard towards the front. We can see Luca, who claims 5, so this horse will be racing off 11.7. That 5 will be valuable in the context of this race. We can see that his personal form is pretty strong. 22 winners in the last year at a 15% strike rate. That's really good for a claiming jockey. It was good for any jockey, but particularly for a claiming jockey. So he's certainly well worth his £5 claim. This horse is quite interesting to me, actually, Almazar Guard, just because obviously he's got back class. He's 137 rated, hasn't done anything for 4 starts. He won off 133 here when he led. That was in the spring last year, and then up to 140. Struggled a little bit there, and started coming back down the weights again. Now 132 essentially with this £5 off. I just think, he's pretty friendless in the market at the moment, but he's kind of interesting to me. I want to be against Sidi Ishmael at about 5-4, 11-8. Obviously he's got a very progressive profile, but they're piling the weight on him, and this is another tough test just 2.5 weeks after this was a pretty hard race here. So I want to be against Sidi, even though I respect him. The top one is interesting. Classic Escape is a trainer change to Phil Kirby. Champion jockey Brian Hughes rides, or former champion, I think. Kirby's not in great form, but this one again has went from the front for his former trainer. Whether he takes that kind of run style today for his new trainer remains to be seen. But it's not a race I want to go overboard on, but I might just have a small nibble on Almazar Guard, who I think is interesting, and I like the jockey and the pace angles at least. I should have shown you the Instant Expert as well. As you can see, there's a lot of green there. It's a very competitive race, and again, Almazar Guard kind of shapes up, as they all do, fairly well. Going is a slight question mark, but he has won on this sort of ground. So yeah, that's that. Didn't have anything else at Catterick that I thought was of any interest. Now there was one race of very mild interest at Chelmsford. Nothing at Newcastle. They've got a all-weather fast track qualifier with just 3 runners. Tragically, 10 grand to the winner and 3 runners. Bit disappointing. At Chelmsford, there are a couple of races actually. The 7 o'clock, which is a 7 furlong 0 to 80 handicap. Now, one of the features at Chelmsford is the strong front-running bias, which can be seen here. This green blob for lead. You can see the impact value is nearly 2, and profit and loss to a £1 level stake is £121, and nearly 25% of front runners against these conditions actually won their race. So if we sort this by draw, I've got it on the last 3 races, which I'm happy enough with. Put the heat map on, and you can see that lead is the place to be. It looks like it could be a bit of a burn up here, and there's a short favourite in Whittle Le Woods, who probably deserves to be favourite for all that he's been running well without winning. I don't think there's any question marks about his attitude. May have just been a little bit unlucky, but 7-4 is probably not a price to wade in at. David Probert, Gigi's jockey, will obviously give Full Intention a fine ride, and Up the Rail may bid to lead, as this horse did twice, 3 and 4 runs back. But the one that interests me a little bit is Porfin, which ran 4th last time, but definitely did not stay the mile at Chelmsford. Luke Catton did quite a lot on the horse early, and as you can see there, was headed inside the final furlong and weakened and lost 2 places inside the last 110 yards. Back to 7 with Holly Doyle on. Holly won on the horse over 5, 2 back, and she won over 6 on the horse 5 back. The horse has won 3 of its last 5, couldn't win last time arguably because it didn't stay. Only up 3 since that last run, which was creditable, given everything. The other thing about this is he's won at Lingfield and Wolverhampton, so he's kind of track versatile, and he's won over 5 furlongs, 6 furlongs and 7 furlongs, so he's trip versatile, and he's won when being held up, when led, and when prominent, so he's run style versatile. So this is a pretty versatile horse, obviously in great form, fit as a flea, and I just thought from stall 3, if Holly can get to the front, I guess she probably will, but if she has to take a lead behind one or both of these two, then that's not going to be a problem either. She's got a great stalking position from stall 3 there. The other 4 don't really figure to get into the pace for the race, so I thought Porfin was worth a small interest in a race that probably I don't think I'd want to be betting one to finish from further back on a track that definitely suits front runners, generally speaking. So that was that. And then in the 7:30, which is a 0 to 50 classified, we really are scraping the barrel somewhat at the moment. That you can see on the pace map here, we've got Cracker, who just seems to, I think, didn't he run today? Seems to run, it ran 2 days ago. Just, I don't know what they're doing with this horse, but he runs a hell of a lot, even though he's running badly. Just in dire need of a rest. Anyway, that's another story. Roxbury in stall 12 ostensibly is drawn out of it, but he might well lead. If we look at the data view, we can see that he led last time, and he was kind of close up the time before. He led 3 back. He wants to go forward, and there isn't a huge amount of pace inside him. Cracker and Lady Monica aside, it's possible that something towards the rail might try to go forward, but Roxbury's pretty quick from the gate. What I also liked about him when I was looking on the profiler was that he's got quite a stand-up record around Chelmsford, so I've got it on the course. I've filtered his overall profile specifically for course form, and we can see that at 7 furlongs, which is this race trip, he is 2 from 2, and what else did I want to pick out here? Obviously these all relate to Chelmsford. Yeah, that was it really, just these 2 from 2, and I think there was a class angle. Where's the class? Yeah, this is his grade, obviously. I just thought the headgear is an interesting one. So his wins have been in the blinkers, and he's got the visor on here, but I thought at the price he was worth chancing, for all that. I mean, there's some really moderate horses in here, and you know, he figures to clear at least most of the runners inside him to the first turn, and again, you know, leaders have a strong edge even in these bigger fields. So 16% winners, that's kind of 1 in 6 in races of 11 to 14 runners, so they're winning pretty much twice as often as you would expect, and a healthy level stakes profit. So that was enough for me to take a tiny sliver of Roxbury. I think a few operators are offering 4 places, which is probably worth taking. That was all on the card, and really, as I say, very, very slim pickings tomorrow. Just desperately modest stuff. One other thing that I thought was worth touching on was Southwell, which, as you probably know, they're now racing there on a tapeta surface, having previously been fibre sand. And I just wondered if there were any pointers, early pointers, in terms of draw and pace biases. So what I've done is I've set this up. You can see here, this is the draw analyzer, which you can find from the tools menu here. I've set this up as Southwell course, 6 furlongs to a mile and a half. So essentially the round course and excluding the marathon distances. Actual draw, so that's removing non-runners from the view. And most of in fact probably all of the racing so far has been standard to slow. So you can see that makes no difference there. So standard to slow going. 8+ runners, and I just wanted to see if there was anything material in the draw. And the thing that sticks out really, which you can see both in the table and in the chart, is that low draws seem to be having a bit of a difficult time of it. I don't know if they're harrowing the inside deeper than the wider parts of the track, or if it honestly I have no idea. All I've got is this granted very small data set, and it's pointing to middle and high being okay, particularly middle actually, but low draws struggling. And if we look at the constituent draw chart here, I just want to see if I can get I'm going to just make that a bit smaller so I can get everything that I want in the window. You can see that from the 3 inside stalls between 6 furlongs and a mile and a half, just the 1 winner and 5 places from 45 runners. And stall 4, if you look at the places between stall 4 and kind of stall 9, there seems to be an abundance of podium finishes and win finishes as well. And again, the very wide drawn horses have struggled. In terms of percentage of rivals beaten, which is a sort of particularly on a small sample size like this, it's kind of better to look at the PRB, I think, because it gives us, it assigns some value to every finishing position rather than just the first, either the winning position with wins or the place positions with places. And we can see again that sort of stalls 5 and 6 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11, so kind of 5 through 11 are performing. Obviously this stall 7 is a kind of an outlier in that group, are performing well above the inside stalls, which overall, never mind the win and place part, overall are significantly underperforming. In fact, I go as far as stall 4 as well. 0.45 is an underperformance, albeit again, very small sample sizes here. But the early indications are that you don't want to be inside and you don't want to be wide outside. Somewhere in the middle is probably slightly favourable. If we just quickly look at the draw pace heat map here, again on percentage of rivals, you can see that articulated again, low, regardless of your run style. If you've drawn low, it's been a struggle so far in this very small data set. I keep labouring that point because it's very formative early days stuff, but so far low looks pretty difficult to overcome, and middle and particularly high and on the front. Basically the thing here is that low is bad, or so far has been bad. I wouldn't hang my hat on that, but it's definitely something to be aware of if you fancy one drawn inside. And that, I think, is enough for today. I'd like to apologise for it being, I feel like I've kind of maybe shortchanged you a little bit in this episode, simply because there's so little to go at with tomorrow's racing. It's very disappointing stuff. Anyway, good luck. I hope there's been at least something of interest in this video, and hopefully next week the racing will be better. I'll speak to you then. Bye for now.